All right. Welcome, everyone.
It smells like sour apples right now.
And teen spirit.
And teen spirit.
Ooh, it's been a while since I had it.
How's that?
You know those, remember those suckers that's like sour apple and then the caramel?
Yep.
On the stick?
Yep.
Nothing like that.
Checks out. I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know, since this isn't a visual media, Paul opened a Four Locos.
I mean, a random beverage.
Oh, that's right. We are not sponsored yet, so it is a random beverage.
I would deny it.
Haven't heard anything back from unsaid beverage company Coca-Cola yet. Although I will be reaching out with their marketing department later this week as well, since they did not respond to my 12 emails I sent them.
Checks out.
Apple also doesn't like responding to my emails because I tend to email them about transferring my analytics from their site to a different site so I can just view all the analytics, and they're just like,
nope.
Nah, son.
Don't want that.
Nah. But don't worry about it.
Neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. It's a hot one again. It's so roasty toasty, and in fact, Canada being on fire is not helping.
No, it isn't.
I was driving over the bridge, one of the many bridges, a bridge, unknown bridge, on my way home over the weekend, yesterday, and I couldn't even see half of the city, man. It was mostly gone.
Yeah, it's kind of rough.
It's pretty good though. You want a sip?
No, thank you.
No, try it.
I value my brain chemistry as it is right now.
I mean, so yourself.
I spent about 5 days in the woods breathing fresh air, and that was great. But by the end of it,
did you plan to do that, or was that just like a?
It was moderately planned.
Okay,
it was moderately planned.
We wanted to crash that helicopter.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
By the way, guys, we splurged. We bought a helicopter.
And then we promptly crashed.
And then Levi, his first time taking it. The rest of us didn't even get to ride in it. All we did was look at it.
They don't tell you to get a pilot's license before you take off.
No one had a chance to tell you anything before you took off.
That makes sense. Like,
look.
If you've already got a driver's license, why would you need a pilot's license?
You're right.
Exactly.
There's
and when
no
I
difference.
have my fingers shoved up into my ears so I can't hear anything, how
because
can you
you
tell
didn't
me
own
different?
a headset yet.
Because the helicopter was really loud.
Yeah.
It was really loud. So I was trying to use the joystick steer thing with my knees. It didn't work out very well.
No.
And
it's like a dad driving with their knees down the road in that old crappy Pontiac.
Exactly.
That they had to drive.
The forest fire, it wasn't a bolt of lightning that started. It was actually us crashing.
Well, not us. We weren't even in it because you took off without us.
You're complicit because
we didn't even own it long enough to put our logo on the side of it.
I don't think we had a logo. When did the fire start?
When you crashed.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, apparently, Eliot, he's got a juicy bit of news for us.
Yeah, I've got a really exciting update.
When I saw him at his work the other day, he put in his 2 weeks notice a couple weeks ago, maybe a month notice, however long he put in.
That's true.
But he's still technically working for now. But he is committing and leaving a real job. But I walked into his work and he was like, I got something good.
Yeah, no, I've got an update about last week's bit. So if y'all remember, last week we kept joking about how I might have murdered someone, and of course that's completely untrue. I didn't look anything up. They looked me up. So it was Thursday. And I just get this random phone call at 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I pick it up. I see it on my phone, and the caller ID is telling me Chicago something. So I answer the phone, and I'm like, hello? And this guy on the other end, he goes, hi, this is Detective Michaels. from Chicago PD. I'm calling you about something that has come to interest over a podcast that you posted last week.
Is that why we have listeners in Chicago?
It said, I'm calling you over a concern that we had with the podcast last week.
Okay. Keep going.
And then he says, magnets really aren't alive. They're just rocks. They're just rocks, man. There's nothing wrong with it. They're not alive. They don't breathe. They don't have a heartbeat. They're not living organisms. They're just rocks. And I go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then he goes, yeah, my favorite emoji is the cop one. And I go, thanks, bud. So yeah, that's my update the last week. Thank you, Detective Michaels. We'll hear from you again.
But like, in all seriousness,
What was that?
magnets are alive.
No, they're not. Did none of you actually read the book?
Detective Michaels, that's what he
I
told
don't
me.
think he's wrong. Wait, no.
You think he is wrong?
Frick.
Did you have one of these?
No, I didn't. But I probably should have.
You know what? Moving that fan into this room, the one fan in this house that I stole from my wife tonight.
Decision.
Really, I'm honestly enjoying it, and Eliot's probably enjoying the most of it.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of skin showing tonight, if you know what I mean.
He is completely naked on the
Nope.
couch.
That is
not,
not
that's not true.
I've got my shoulders out. That's about it.
Oh, hottesty. Modesty is hottesty.
Yep.
Didn't you guys remember that music video?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I
Watched that video for the first time when I was actually working at a Christian summer camp.
Yeah.
We weren't doing our normal camp week. We were actually approached by a Hispanic Catholic group
Ooh. Fun times.
that showed up and did a camp with us for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then just never talked to us again. So
Oh, yikes.
not really sure what happened there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Leave it up to the
yikes.
Catholics to
Catholics can be really
enforce
weird.
modesty.
Yeah, they're a little nuts. So, Levi and I, we were both at separate camps over the weekend.
It's true.
It is true. My wife and I got to volunteer at the camp we met at, the Christian camp we met at, and cook for a 2-week program that they have there where most campers are gone. They leave Friday and then the new ones come in Sunday afternoon.
Mhm.
That's how most of it works, for that camp at least. Most of their camps function similar to that.
Mhm.
At least like Saturday's free. But this camp is 2 weeks and it's all the way through the weekend, and they, all their regular staff is gone. So it's like, yeah, we'll come in, might as well. Well, it turned out to be their fancy dinner, which they have they have a service project day where all they do is just work and work and work. And then, they have no idea what they're doing all day. And the whole point of that camp is that they have no idea what the schedule is every day because it's always something different every time. So they have no idea what to expect. Unless they have an older sibling that blabbed.
Yeah.
Which half of them do.
Mm-hmm.
So half of them are like grinning and cheesing hard, and the other half are like, this sucks. This freaking sucks, man. But
Wait, which half are grinning and which half?
the grinning half is the one that knows whose older siblings blabbed.
Okay.
Yeah. But we got to be in the kitchen for a bit and try our hand at that. And it's been a while. I've worked a lot of really weird jobs, and I've worked a lot of different jobs. Not because I get fired a lot, but just because I decided to work a bunch of different jobs when I was in college and in high school and stuff like that. And so I just never actually landed on a career. But I went into full, production chef mode, Gordon Ramsay yelling at people, where are my chicken cordon bleus? Get them plated, get the potatoes on there, now! Service starts in 5 minutes! Just yelling. Panic, sweating through my shirt, because we were supposed to dress a little bit fancy to serve them, and I'm just my blue shirt is now a dark blue shirt. It's already a roasty toasty weekend, and it's just getting worse and worse every second.
Yeah.
But at least we got to escape the smog that is Canada, ruining our country. We should sue them. The country.
That's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, we should get our single lawyer.
We have a lawyer?
We don't have a lawyer.
Oh, gosh.
It's Carly reading a law book.
Yep.
I mean, we could go to the... Oh. Almost said something. We could go to unnamed bar location and read law. Am I right?
Oh, we could do that, but that's like a Wisconsin state. Oh, shoot.
A little outdated.
They're a little outdated, yeah.
That's true. It's
honestly,
very
the
true.
best spot to read law books, honestly.
That's right.
In fact, everything is an ad for that spot, we found out.
Most things are.
Most things are an ad for that spot.
He made an ad for that spot. I don't know what we're talking about. We read an ad for that bar.
We did?
Yeah.
I'm not doing well right now. I'm about half of one of these things in, and I got 2 more on the table, and I will finish them tonight.
Oh, gosh.
That's really bold for how late it is right now.
It is.
I don't have to drive cars at work ever.
Unnamed time right now.
It's podcast time. It's like 10 o'clock. It's 10 p.m. on a Monday.
Not for you, though.
They're going to figure out where we are based on what time it is.
Depends
right
on
now.
what you're listening. You know what?
That's
for
true.
you, it could be like 11:35 a.m. on a Thursday.
That's right. And
Oh.
It could be. Well,
Oh, actually, I got a good one. Eliot, your favorite meme, didn't get a whole... I don't know if your phone blew up at all from people listening to this, but I got a few texts.
Yeah?
From
My
this.
favorite emoji?
Yeah, my
Nice.
brother, shout out to David, what a champion,
David.
replied, all he did was reply, let's see if I can pull it up, because I don't want to misquote it, at least. I'll give him that.
you'll give him the
I'll give him the
quote.
benefit of just not misquoting it a little bit. Here we go.
But didn't your brother find out about the podcast?
Yeah, he found out through our Instagram, and he had he had no idea that he had listened to it, and he listened to it before he followed. And he said, "Tell Eliot the peach, and I am ready to guest." Well, we'll see about that one, but we were possibly going to have a guest tonight, but that fell through. Possibly next week is when we'll get our first guest on the show.
Or honestly,
Someone to work through some bits with, or honestly, whenever. If you guys ever just come up with, if someone just follows you in, I'm not gonna stop them.
Nice.
We'll make money off of it.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But I, just like Paul, spent a few days up at the Boy Scout summer camp of my youth. Although they're not the Boy Scouts anymore. They are Scouts BSA, because they have a girls program. You can be a girl in Scouts now.
But can I be an
And,
Apache attack helicopter in the
Well,
Scouts?
I, as a slightly conservative / very conservative leaning organization, I think they're slowly coming around to it.
Okay.
So I don't think they can tell you no.
You guys ever read? So like Teddy Roosevelt came up with the Boy Scout. Not came up with, but was a champion of the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
You can probably tell me who came up with the Boy Scouts. But Teddy Roosevelt, one of those nature preserve guys. Let's get boys out there. But all that kind of started with like old guys from the 30s fascination for boys. And there's a paper that that good old Theodore Roosevelt wrote about being a good boy, and a goodly good boy does this, and he wears shorts, and he's a good boy because he's and it's one of the creepiest papers I've ever read.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's a little rough. Anyway, I was watching a bunch of boys in shorts over this last week.
Don't phrase it like that, please. I've been told multiple times over the course of my now, actually probably just...
Did you just check your non-existent watch? For
Yeah,
how
I
you
checked
were?
my non-existent watch. Probably over the last year, I've grown out a piece of facial hair. I've grown out my goatee. And
I
the
think like a single
goatee
whisker.
mixed with the slight dad bod that I have going on, just
Mhm.
my general physique and my mannerisms and stuff. People think I'm a dad.
Yeah.
And what would have made... So I went up there halfway through my Boy Scout troops week. And so I basically just hung out with a bunch of dads.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because all the scouts were off doing,
Whatever.
Right.
And I'm not doing
In
that
fact,
anymore.
my brother was also off doing whatever. He would
nice.
talk to me and then leave me, and then I'd just be alone, and then
Be sad.
talk with the other adults who are like 40, 50, and I'm actually 40 or 50, and that was actually my son, not my brother, who walked away from me. So I was literally a dad in my 20s at a Boy Scout camp for like 3 days. It was pretty.
I'm
What's
still
up,
fascinated by this thing. I'm sorry.
Oh, your sword?
Not
Your,
a sword. The sword's on the mantelpiece.
You're just like Eliot has his ice skate. You have
Yeah,
your
he'll get to
blade.
that story hopefully today.
No, I was gonna wait until Bruno comes to tell
Oh,
that one.
yeah,
Oh,
we need to.
that would be good.
I'm really hoping that'll be today, but I
That'd be
guess
good.
we'll hold on.
We'll hold off.
Maybe we
Make
hold
a
off on
little
the-
teaser, but I'm holding a tomahawk, just the head of a tomahawk. There's no handle in it right now because the handle is rotten out. At the camp that I was just at for the weekend, I went there when I was from 3rd to 5th grade, and then my parents sent me to camp, and then they moved. But at least they brought me to the new home,
Yeah.
which is nice. But this here tomahawk head was the exact one that when I was in 5th grade, someone threw, and it got stuck in my shin. Enough so to where me not touching it, it was staying in my shin. It's a really great memory from camp. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece from that camp that I spent years of my life to, and I actually met my wife at when I was in 8th grade.
Nice.
So that's nice. It's just also the most brutal memory anyone could ever have of going to a place they really enjoyed being.
Mhm.
Where it's like, I didn't even tell my counselor that I had this in my leg, and because it went through my jeans, and so I ripped off the bottom half of my pant leg, and it was just like, all right, and then I tied it around my shin, around where it was bleeding, and then just didn't do anything about it and told no one until that was probably like Monday, Tuesday, like beginning of camp.
Oh my gosh.
And then Thursday rolls around, and I got stung by a wasp in the eye. If not the eyelid, like the lower eyelid.
Yeah.
Is where I got stung. And so my entire left eye was swollen shut.
That's a rough week of camp.
That was a rough week of camp. That was not even the last of it. And so like left eye is completely swollen shut. My counselor's like, okay, go to the nurse. And so I did. And then she's doing that. And by this time, I'd taken the dirty pant leg off of my wound. But it's, just like scabbed over, kind of gross looking, but not, it's not like, I mean, as a kid, it's not infected.
Yeah.
But it's not good looking.
Yeah.
It's not gangrene. But she goes, okay, so your eye's all taken care of. What happened to your shin? Did that happen today? Because it looks a little old. I was like, nah, that happened earlier this week. Some kid threw a tomahawk and it stuck in my leg when we were doing archery. And it's like, oh.
And
Do you
so
want me
that's how you met your wife?
No. She
And
was
that's how I
the
met
nurse
my
at camp,
mother.
but not that year because
Oh,
she's
okay.
she's younger than me, so she was not the nurse.
No, she was the one that threw the tomahawk.
Yeah, that's Dang it, Carly! Just love at first spite, or not smite, smite. Yeah. Words are getting harder from this magical green liquid.
It actually makes sense because there's a little heart.
There is a little heart
tomahawk.
engraved in this.
The heart.
And Eliot was with me. He came to visit at that camp one time because he was at a wedding rehearsal or like
Nope, it was what was it? It was like an engagement party or something.
engagement party. Those are weird.
Yeah.
So he decided, and he was pretty close. And he decided to swing on over. So I was like, yeah, cool. And so we went out for a walk, and we went to the spot where that happened because I told him that story when we were in college, like sophomore, freshman year, whenever we met. And then I found the tomahawk where it had entered my leg, like the same area where it had been. And it's just like, all right, time to keep this thing forever. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been.
Now it's here.
Now it's here, and now I'm gonna keep it. Might maybe make a new handle for it, but I wanna. My plan was to put a new handle in it, and then put it on like a blackboard, and then just like stick it to the blackboard, and then put a little like tag underneath that says "Camp Memories wasn't Paul's leg," and then just hang it next to like the staff photos. But that got vetoed by the program director of the camp, so. I guess it's pretty boring. Or pretty lame now. But no, it's a good time. Honestly, for his like the bad memories that happen at camp, I've just forgotten about. And because I replaced it with so many good ones, that I could get another tomahawk in my leg the next time I go there, and I'd still probably go back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my other leg too, not even my bad one. Not even the one that's forever disfigured. Yeah.
So what you're saying is we could start throwing.
You're not allowed to throw tomahawks at me. I'll throw them back harder.
Okay.
I need more of that fan. It's hot. Yeah, it's what was I thinking? I had a thought, but the green liquid has made me forget it.
That's okay.
Okay.
I remember very distinctly along the lines of things getting stuck in people's bodies.
No, that's the first one, but it's a lot of percentage. And it also has like caffeine and crap in it, so it's not helping. Really? Yeah, it makes it act faster. And I'm not done now, but I will be probably after one more of these.
Oh gosh. But it was probably one of the more freak incidents that I've seen happen at a Boy Scout camp. I worked there for a long time, and I worked as assistant aquatics director.
Hey,
for 3 years in a row, and this kid comes. I forget how or why, but he came crying up to us, and he was like got this oh no, what do you call it? Like a fish hook stuck in his head. But it's not like a regular fish hook, which is like, 1J.
Yeah,
this is like the Omega fish hook. So it has 1J and then a J directly across from it, and then it has 2 more perpendicular J's.
Oh, it's
like a small 4-pronged fish hook that's stuck in like the butt crack of his knee.
Ooh, that's
so it's like through his pants, through his knee. And so he's like crying. He's probably like 12.
Yeah, and that sucks.
We call our health officer down, and she comes down and pulls it mostly out of the gene, and there's a little bit left in his leg, and so she's like, "All right, we're gonna count down from 3, and then I'll pull it out." So she gets it all rigged up to pull out, and then the kid, not her, is like 1, 2, and then she pulls it on 2.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. You can't do it on 1.
That's what you do. But what caught her off guard is that he started counting, not her.
He was just ready.
He was like, "We're going," and she's like, "Oh," and has to go for it.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
she told me later that it kind of freaked her out a little bit.
So I was the waterfront director at 2 different camps, and there's a lot of fun stories from both of those jobs. But at the camp we were just at, I was the waterfront director there for 1 year out of my 2 years on staff there. And I, if something can't be fixed, are you going to deal with it? Or are you just be like, because like if a fish hook gets stuck in you, like we can deal with that. We'll get the nurse down. Yeah. It'll be dealt with. Don't worry about that. But I was doing water games. And so they're playing, kind of a, not super rough, but they're just playing like polo.
Yeah.
Not polo, like sharks and minnows in the shallow end. So they're running and they're like, some of them are getting tackled, but they're middle schoolers, so they can handle it.
Yeah.
One kid walks up to me and she looks like she's not doing well, but I didn't see her get tackled at all. I'm watching all this from the shore, and like, no one's been like just laid out. Most people have just been, wrapped around by their friend and are being dragged, or whatever. Not even that bad. And then she just comes up to me, and she is on like the edge of crying, and then she goes, I chipped my tooth. It's like, well, can't do anything about that. Have fun. I'm not. There's no dentist, and it's not even like it wasn't like that bad. You know how like sometimes when you just bite into food, you just like chip the very very corner.
Yeah,
and it's like a speck. It's not like my brother. We were at my cousin's house in Colorado. That same one that sent that fun selfie, and he was jumping on the trampoline, and our other cousin tried to do a flip and kicked him in the jaw, and so then he cracked a tooth. It wasn't even like that, where it's like, oh, you're missing like a corner, like that, like a quarter of your tooth. Mm-hmm. No, it was like maybe a 16th of the corner of your tooth, and it's like, well, You can go up to the nurse if you want to. She might give you something if it hurts. Otherwise, she can't do anything about it. We'll let your mom know. But if you want to just go back in the water, go back in the water because there's nothing we can do about it. So, and then she was on the edge of crying. Then she went, "Oh, okay." Then I just went back in, had fun.
Dude.
Yes.
Sick.
Sometimes it just guys home. There's nothing you can do for them.
And that works really well.
It works. It depends. It depends on the child. But for her, it worked because it's like, man, I'm not gonna lie to her. It's like, oh yeah, we can help you. Nah, we can't. Speaking of hooks in like parts of the body, my brother has always been a very avid fisherman. To the point where he will like go to the family cabin and he'll just spend half a day in his kayak alone fishing, no music or anything, just alone fishing because that's what he wants to do. And he got a treble hook, so they got one of those 3J hooks.
Okay.
He got one of those from a Rapala stuck in his thumb, his left thumb, I think.
That's pretty rough.
And he was just like, well, this sucks. And he took his knife that he had in his pocket and he put it at the, like, not the base of his thumb, but like that first knuckle, and just put the tip in and sliced to the tip of his thumb. And then, like, wriggled it out, and then continued to fish. And he got back, and he was like, I had to cut my thumb, but it was okay. I caught a couple bass.
There's so many better ways to do that.
Yeah, but, like, he did it, and it's fine. I've had to do that a couple times where it's just, like, I have to, like, rip it out or something like that. So.
Yeah.
I have this really fun... I have really bad ingrown toenails. For all you listeners who have foot fetishes, just run away from my feet, because they'll kill you. And anyone that doesn't like hearing about this, skip ahead, like... a minute. So I get really bad ingrown toenails, and I get them. They're reoccurring, and I could go to the doctor right now, but insurance things. I gotta make a bit more money before I feel like just putting money into toe surgery.
Yeah.
To fix that forever. So what I've come to the conclusion of doing is ripping them out on my own, and I've done it. It's both big toes, and it's both sides of both big toes.
That's rough.
And I've done
Really
all the
podcast.
sides maybe 4 times each. And I just ripped out a big one today, and it was hidden like mostly underneath. Like, I don't know how much was showing. It was like what was showing was the size of my pinky nail, or not much. No, was showing, but like what I pulled out was the size of my pinky nail.
Oh.
And only about a quarter of it was showing, and the rest of it was tucked underneath, like to the right. And it was real nasty. And so my wife really, really loves when I do that, especially in front of her. Anyway, sorry for grossing you out. Welcome back to regular content.
That's right. If you didn't catch it, we're the Lake City Variety.
Lake City Variety. It's always great to do the intro half an hour into the show.
That's right.
Because I am too much enjoying this green liquid to remember to do an intro. We're Lake City Variety. We're your standard variety show podcast. Today we're talking about weird injuries and thumb surgeries, as well as a phone call from police. But I am the not so professional photographer. My name's Paul. To my left is
it's Big Guy Eliot. Big Guy Eliot, the uncultured archaeologist.
Yeah.
That's right. And to his left is the...
And to my left...
And to my left's left...
Wait, what am I?
You're the non-engineering engineer.
Non-engineering engineer.
Yeah.
That had to explain that to a lot of
and you got your
scout leaders.
Did you really?
Week. Yeah.
Like, how did that go? Anyway, that's Levi, by the way.
It went. Yeah, I'm Levi. They're like, oh, what are you doing? Last time I heard, you were in school, and I'm like, yeah, I got out of school. And now
drop out or graduate?
I graduated. We're having the conversation right now.
Yeah,
this is how it goes. And then, on a good conversation, it lasts for like 45 minutes. That was sick. On a bad not a bad conversation. On a short conversation, 30 seconds. You're like,
all right.
Oh, great. Sounds like you're doing
great.
And
you told them you're running a podcast.
I have not actually told any of my
I
family.
don't know who I feel comfortable
podcast.
telling about the podcast and who I don't. And so I've kind of been like, not hiding it. But those of you who know about it, know about it. And if you find it, welcome. It's not that I was hiding it from you. I just didn't know whether or not you'd be disappointed in me as a person.
You found a gem.
You found a real gem. It's... All right, wow.
You found something.
And for that, I congratulate you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to educate the class?
No, that's all right.
Did you want to share what you Google?
Well, I had a camp story,
Oh, okay, go for it.
and it's just we kind of got off to
No,
camp stories to gross
It's back to
ingrown
camp story.
toenail things.
No, skip that. Don't talk about that again. The people
That's
will
right.
never listen again. It's
Okay.
probably. I'm gonna look at the YouTube analytics, and it'll be the most skipped segment.
Really makes sense that it would be.
And maybe for some people, the most played segment.
I really hope
Or
not.
like
I really hope not.
sadists, maybe.
I don't know. I got to the point where I can't feel it anymore. So, and I don't even have to have green liquid to do that. I just don't feel it. So,
Okay.
Anyway,
Well, I wasn't at a camp last week, but I feel left out, so I wanted to tell a camp story.
you should just come to camp with us.
And basically, I went to this really small Christian camp growing up, and I went there for a bunch of years, and then I worked there for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of camp experience, like camp stories. And I just kind of want to tell like some fun game stories, maybe.
Okay. All right.
So back before even I went to camp, there was this massive game that would always be played, like every year, by the campers.
Oh, don't tell me. I know this game.
And it's called, I don't know what they really called it, but I like to call it Ultimate Turkey. And it's
We're good.
really exciting.
No, that would not be that game. Come on.
So basically, you take a frozen turkey. It's frozen. It's a turkey.
So
Yeah.
wait, it's called
Pull it
Ultimate
out
Turkey?
of it's called Ultimate Turkey.
Okay.
And you pull it out of the freezer, and then you use it to play Ultimate Frisbee. So you're using this frozen turkey. You're tossing it around.
I want to
gotta
see the
score
one giant
points.
guy in high school that can whip that thing and just kill one of the girls.
Yeah, maybe that happened. But I would always hear stories about this growing up, like of like the supervisors or something. Like, oh yeah, back in my day, we used to play Ultimate Turkey, but now that Salmonella's around,
Oh yeah.
well, they can't really play it anymore. And like, well, first of all, Salmonella has really always been around. It was really dangerous for you to play that back then. However fun it is.
Didn't exist.
But yeah, it died out pretty much by the time that I got to camp.
Bummer.
We played a game called Flicker Ball, which is just like a big camp game. But essentially, it was invented by the Army, and they made it to have like a bunch of these really arbitrary rules that were really kind of annoying, just to really test the recruits' ability to follow rules. And that's the game we played instead of chucking frozen turkeys.
You know what game
at
we
each
played
other.
at the camp that I worked at for 3 years before I was that other chip tooth story was?
What's that?
We played Biffer.
Biffer?
Heck is Bifford.
Biffer
I hardly know.
Is the It is. Yeah, you hardly know her. It's the best game ever invented for staff members.
Yeah.
Because if you've been working at a camp long enough, you see kids go from like elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, and you see those cute middle school kids turn into the most disgusting and awful people in your life.
Yeah.
Because they
Checks
enter
out.
they turn into like high school sophomores and they just forget how to bathe.
Yep.
It's true.
Biffer was a game invented, and it was kind of a way to force people to bathe, but also for us to get our frustrations out from the rest of the summer.
Okay.
And what it is that every staff member, even volunteers, gets a tube sock filled with flour, and you just beat campers.
Nice.
They have objectives that they're supposed to do. They're supposed to go to different spots and get tokens, and then if they get, we didn't try to kill them, but if you lightly hit them
someone died
some
every
of them,
now and then.
every once in a while you just lay one out. No, you never do that, but you wanted to, because some of them were awful.
For the record.
For the record, there was no child abuse at camp. It was just a way to trick them into bathing.
Yep.
And so, you tap them with the biffer sock, and then they'd have to, like, give up, like, however many tokens for, whatever.
Yeah.
Depends on where you got hit, or even, like, what you were doing, stuff like that. And the point of that whole game is, cover them in flour and make them jump in the lake. And if they jump in the lake, some of them, hopefully 2/3 of them, will take a shower. That's the goal. Is to make the majority of camp take a shower that day. But we had one guy on staff, and this was when I was a camper. So this was,
you were the biffy.
I was the biffy. This was probably 7 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 7, 8 years ago, something like that. He was the waterfront director before me. I think directly before me, because I started working at camp right after that.
Okay.
He was insane. Not in like, he's crazy, stay away from him. But I commit to the bit sometimes a little too much, and Eliot and Levi can attest to that sometimes.
It's true.
I can't say that, never mind.
Concur.
Yeah. He was also very athletic. I am, not.
Less than.
But, so he would climb trees, these pine trees, which are limbed to 16 feet, so campers don't climb pine trees. But he would have two counselors move a picnic table over to the pine tree with him. He'd stand on their shoulders and then get up to the lowest branches, and then climb up the tree, and then stay really high up in the tree.
Okay.
And then have the other counselors move the picnic table away from the tree, so you didn't know where he was, and you would never see him in the game. And you're just like, is he like laying down? Is he sick or something like that? And then he drops from the sky in front of you, and then just smacks you in the chest with a biffer sock.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah. So he would do that, for most games.
Yeah.
There was one game that was it was mentally intense. And it was not meant to trick people into taking a shower. And it was a game we played every 3 to 4 years. Because if we played it every year, it would lose how special it was. But you can't play it, like once every 4 years, because then someone's going to miss it and they'd be sad. Because things always come up, like volleyball comes up or whatever, whatever.
Yeah. And
it was basically about being a persecuted Christian in countries where Christianity is frowned upon, and there's like Gestapo or like whatever coming after you, trying to arrest you and trying to kill you.
Okay.
And so there's 3 or 4 different fires hidden throughout the grounds of camp, and you're supposed to deliver tokens, Bibles, to these churches, these fires, and you're trying to get there safely, and you're trying to avoid the KGB the whole time, because of course it's the Russians.
Makes sense.
Of course.
And every staff member, except for the 3 or 4 that are at fire pits, most of them are volunteers at the fire pits, because this game is also for the staff members.
Yeah.
You take shifts, and there's 2 different shifts that you can take. You can either be an officer, and you're inside of the chapel, and if campers are caught, they are brought to you, and you interrogate them, and if you can get information out of them, good. If you can't, you just kill them, and they have to start over. Like, they lose their points for whatever, and they have to start over.
Oh, dang.
And it's
Do they go to heaven
really
if they
intense. I mean, if they're Christians, they go to heaven if they don't. And then the other option is to be, an agent, and you're out in the woods, out everywhere, and you are hunting down campers, and it is midnight, and there is not much music playing. I think the point is no light. So if someone has a flashlight, you will be seen if you have a flashlight. So you're running around with as little light as possible.
Yeah.
For anything, and it's really intense, because if a counselor catches you, they're not in full uniform, but they are being as intimidating as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine someone jumping from the sky and then pretending to be a gulag agent, and then dragging you to the chapel.
And then torturing you.
So I watched him. I luckily got to play. It was that year that we got to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my last year as a camper, we got to play. And I watched him throw a folding table across the room when he did not get answers. Like, he pounded on the table and, like there's 3 girls sitting across the table, and they are not doing well already because they've been captured.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a game up until, like, you're being interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like a game until you're being interrogated. And then you're like, oh, this is real, and people actually go through this. And the whole message, like the chapel message before this game, is about persecuted Christians and how we should help them and what they go through. And then you surprise them with that game. But yeah, he just grabs this table after not getting answers and just whips it across the chapel. And these girls are just screaming. Bloody murder.
Gosh.
It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen, and I was 35 feet away from him.
Sounds traumatizing.
It's a really good game. You know, like it gets the message across.
Oh yeah.
But it's a really fun game. It turns out to be really fun. It's the most requested game we've ever had. You know, people want to play it every year, but we can't play it every year because it's intense. You can't just have that experience at camp all the time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's only for senior hires, and it's only every 3 years or whatever. You know, every other year, every 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But I want to bring that game to other camps because it's just a really good message behind it. But it's also like the most terrifying thing you can ever do to like a child.
As you whip the table across the
room.
room.
And it's like not most people just some people do like, oh, if you tell me what, I'll give you these brownies or like these like whatever, like trying to bribe you.
Poisoned brownies.
Sometimes we'll recruit. We'll say, okay, you can go, but you work for us until you capture 2 campers. And so then sometimes there'll be a camper out there that's actually a traitor.
Oh, no.
And like their whole job is to like grab onto 2 people and then just scream, I got him, I got him, I got him, until like a counselor runs over to like collect.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really intense.
Wow.
But it's a fun game. Anyway, that's Camp Stories. I miss camp a lot.
I do too.
Yeah.
So does Boy Scouts play any good games?
Yeah, the Boy Scouts have fun.
Play any good games.
All I
That's
know
an
is that
interesting
every once in a while you make a giant vat of macaroni and cheese.
Have we done that? However, our camp gets ham donated to it very frequently, and by
From
the end
where?
of the season,
Where are they getting hams?
unnamed city from unnamed factory that makes and produces
Oh, that's nice.
ham. I mean, like Boy Scouts is Scouts BSA. It's a non-profit organization.
Yeah, that's
so
a nice tax deduction.
You can donate to them, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But you can donate to us as well on
That's right.
patreon.com/Lake City
You
Variety.
cannot deduct that from your taxes, though.
you can't. We're not. a
we
non-profit.
are a for-profit organization. We have to say that legally. We'd like to say non-profit, but Eliot does need rent.
Please. The landlord is really mad right now.
He found out he quit his job and it had no savings.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Games the Scouts play? Okay, there is one that happens every year, and the camp staff, what they do is, it's called Staff Hunt. And
Ooh,
so
that's a good one too.
it is a good one. You dress up in absurd garb, or
Yeah.
you don't,
Or whatever.
and you hide, or you don't,
Yeah.
and
Sorry, green juice is flowing.
and you're walking. You're a staff person, and you're walking around the camp, you're running around the camp, you're hiding, and the campers all walk around in little herds, and they try to, catch the staff person and get them to write their name down on this sheet of paper. And so, you collect some names, you bring it back to admin, you turn them in, whoever gets the most points wins Staff Hunt.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, though,
it's individual. Is it not like tents or whatever, or cabins? Or anything?
It's like patrols.
Okay, yeah.
So groups of 5 to 10 people.
Nice. That's a little bit better than
Yep,
individual.
Yeah, it's not individual. And so the more a person is caught, the less their name is worth, and the less a person is caught, the more their name is worth. And dude, people do weird stuff all the time. Also, one that's really fun is Capture the Flag, but that one's not done as often. But I remember an ancient camp story of way back in the day when they would both have the staff participate in the game and also have the whole camp on limits, right? Like they didn't have they didn't have boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And
other than a center line, right?
the most majestic, like George Washington-esque story of some camp staff taking canoes from Goodrich Landing, and we might have to blurb that out. And,
no, we're leaving that in. As well as where the hams come from.
There we
tell
go.
them where the hams
There
come
we go.
from.
And they took these canoes and they canoed all the way back behind enemy lines, and then found the flag and canoed back.
That's such a good...
And then won the game.
That's really good.
Oh,
I've seen some things like that. We did, Capture the Flag is a camp favorite.
oh
Yeah.
And so, we played at both camps or whatever that I worked at, and it's always fun. But one game that was just a variation of it, it's very slight.
Okay.
But just as good. Glow-in-the-dark Capture the Flag, where the flag is a milk jug filled with water, like an empty milk jug, with glow sticks in it. So it's like red or blue glow sticks inside the milk jug. So the whole milk jug glows.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to hide because it's glowing.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's no other lights on at camp other than each camper either has a red or a blue glow stick on their arm, on their leg, wherever it's visible.
Yeah.
So you can just hide it in your hair, like put it underneath a log sleeve or anything. And the ways that campers find to hide a glowing jug is impressive. Just, whether it's like running like a team of 5, and this was a really cool one that I saw.
Yeah.
Is they were running like a team of 5, and they were running on the edge of camp where it's kind of weedy, where like the trees are like kind of encroaching a little bit, and they'd like hide it. So the first person would hide it in the bush, and then the second person, the first person would go and like make sure it's clear. The second person would grab it, run a little bit further, and then drop it, and then first and second person make sure it's all clear. Third person grabs it, runs a little bit further, and so they're just doing this line of like dropping it, waiting, next person grabbing it and running it and leaving it in the bushes again. And it was like, how did they coordinate that? They're like 7th graders. There's no way they can communicate that well. But we also did staff hunt, and not to the point where like we don't want to count names all the time, but we'd have like we just like print out like cabin names and then have them printed out or whatever, because you didn't need to have as a cabin. And only the staff member, not the counselors, would stick with their cabin so they can, watch the children to make sure they're not disappearing. And then every person in your cabin had to be there in order to get a point, which is kind of interesting because how do you have 12 people show up at a place without being noticed as a group that they're being handed something? But I had this beautiful idea to lay in what we called the Jordan River. And the Jordan River is creek runoff that goes underneath the highway and then eventually through camp.
Yep.
And so there's a couple bridges over it that are on camp, and so I laid underneath one of those bridges, and it was really gross.
Yep.
And then I was all ready. I had everything done. I was like completely hidden, like done well, and I had planned this because I knew we were playing this game later in the week. I had weed whipped the ditch a little bit, and then taking those clippings and put them on my edges. So I was still technically visible because I was wearing a bright red swimsuit. Mm-hmm. You had to be looking directly underneath the bridge or through the bridge in order to see my face. But then I realized, as soon as I got all set up and everything like that, that running water really reminds you of something. And I really had to do that something.
Oh, no.
And so, campers, I can hear campers. They're not coming towards me yet, but they're about to get to me. And I'm like, I can't do this. I have to. So I shimmy, and I'm on my hip a little bit, and just release.
Oh my god!
Underneath this bridge, and as soon as I finished and like got shifted back into my position, I hear campers run across the bridge, and I'm like,
the bad timing if you weren't finished. That's for sure.
it really would be rough.
Oh god!
Yikes! Really, a big yikes. Yeah.
Trying to think of other games that we played, but
We don't
they're
have
like
to
the
continue
more
with camp stuff.
hush hush games,
Yeah, the stuff you want to
Like-
keep secret.
As a staff person, the admin staff would have a game every year, where you'd get a playing card at the start of staff week, and they'd be like, "All right, you got to hang on to this playing card because at the end of staff week, you're gonna get a good prize, and you can like trade with other people too. So they had trading windows.
Oh, so you don't know if what you have is a good prize or not.
Yeah, so if I have the Jack of Spades and I want like the Ace of Diamonds, I can be like, hey yo, bucko.
But turns out the Jack of Spades was really a new car.
Well, exactly, right. And so we're like, we're getting the hype and we're getting ready, and then all of a sudden the end of the week comes around and we'd been prompted like 10 times if we had our card and if we wanted to trade, and so we're getting pretty excited, and then the camp director comes out and he's like, yeah, we don't have a prize for you. And then we all get real sad because we were looking forward to getting a prize, and he's like, do you know what you just felt? Don't do that to the people who come here.
Yeah.
And then you learn the moral of the story. I have 3 of those cards in my wallet.
Nice.
So that's also a game.
There's some good stuff. My favorite, as waterfront director, and as you probably as assistant waterfront coordinator probably have, is every staff member has to be involved in and know of the waterfront emergency procedures, which are some of the best times during staff training.
If you called the best times the worst time.
As a lifeguard, it's one of the best times.
It's actually, once you know what's going on.
Once you know what's going on. Well, once you're the one planning it.
Yeah.
It's going on.
If you're a 15-year-old boy.
If you're...
who has to strip down his underwear.
If you're a 17 to 19-year-old, fresh staff member who's never been a staff member at a camp before and didn't know that this procedure existed, boy, are you in for a treat. Now... every facility that has a waterfront is required to have this procedure. And how you do it is a waterfront sweep. And and what you do is every staff member that's not a lifeguard, if you have a designated shallow end, they link arms. And they start in the shallow end to where they can't see the bottom anymore, because you're not going to waste your time where you can see,
Yep.
And they sweep their foot in a C-like motion until it's just in front of their other foot. And they do that step, and one person is on the dock calling out, and they have a phone, and they've already called emergency services and everything like that. Campers are being, watched by someone else. It's all being taken care of. They're being distracted by someone else while one of their friends is potentially dying and or dead.
Yep.
Which is a sad truth. It happens. It's rough. It's part of the risk of sending your kid to camp, but it's also, there's safety procedures in case so this never does happen. I've never had to do it for a camper that was existing.
Neither have I.
Anyway, so you do this, and they're doing that, and they do that until they can't touch anymore. So the tallest person, and they just keep doing that back and forth, turning around and keeping going through the waterfront anywhere they can until he can't touch anymore. And the lifeguards are doing. Where they jump in and they go to the boundaries or just outside the boundaries of the waterfront. They dive down to the bottom as together, and hopefully they have masks on. If you don't have a mask on, I hope you like opening your eyes underwater in silty muck.
Yep.
Because that's what you get to do.
Yep.
And you move your hands on the bottom. I feel like I'm instructing this to a bunch of new staff because I've done this a lot. If you can't tell, I've worked at camps for 5 years and I've been a camper forever, so I know how to. This is part of what I do. And you keep doing that until, you can't hold your breath anymore. And then you go back to the furthest back person out of those lifeguards. And you swim back to them. And then you do it again until you find the kid. And sometimes that kid is half a mile up the road because they decided to walk home. And not because they drowned. And that's happened before.
Ooh.
Yep. And the worst is when that person is a staff member.
Yeah!
And you have to dive for your staff member.
Anyway.
And then you find them. And then you hate them.
Forever. Because they made you suffer. But you hope that they weren't suffering. So anyway.
Yeah, that's right. You died for their life.
It's like my second summer at this certain camp. And, there's a bunch of new members of the staff that aren't really certain on, and you have to do this every year anyway. But I already know the procedure. I've gone over it with the executive director and stuff like that. It's like, I know what's going on. And so he tells me, have fun. And this was the first camp I worked at.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. He has a couple wetsuits. because sometimes when you're tubing, your swim trunks fly off. When you're extreme tubing, like the rest of us.
Yep.
So you need a wetsuit if you want to go tubing with the big boys and do flips and jump off your tubes and stuff like that and just not be naked.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. Where
it happens, yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Just trunks gone. That's why we tell girls not to wear a 2-piece swimsuit. Because that's so much worse. Because they feel worse about it than a guy would. Guys just get a little bit embarrassed. Girls panic. Yeah. From my personal experience, because I've seen both times happen with campers. So I got these wetsuits, and I put a big rock, in the pant leg of these wetsuits, and there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I don't tell them how many suits I put in there, but I, arrange these suits throughout the waterfront. And, you tell them, and I do this on my own, no one else knows what I'm doing because they're, doing breakfast cleanup or something like that, and they're away from what I'm doing. And then, the next day or even later that day, we go through the procedure, what we do. And then about, either the same day, much later in the day, when they've all forgotten because it's the end of the day and they're tired, or 2 days later, you initiate the waterfront emergency procedure during staff training. By just ringing the bell or honking the horn, whatever you got.
Yep.
And just watch everyone go, why are they ringing the bell? Is there something going? Oh, no. And then immediately sprint towards the waterfront.
Yeah.
And some of them full on committing, shoes, shirt, phone, whatever they have on them in the water. Some of them are stopping and you're like, come on, you gotta go. Go, go, go. Get in the water. This kid's dying. And then the first person who freaks out when they find the body. Oh, man. Pulling that procedure on people who have no idea what's about to happen is one of the best joys you can have, but doing it when you actually need to is the most terrifying thing in the world.
It's really terrifying. Our camp has a retired CPR dummy called Humphrey, whose eyes are permanently open.
That's
terrifying.
That's terrifying.
I love that. Humphrey's the best.
Who dives, sees these dead eyes, dead cold eyes, staring up at them from the bottom of the lake. They, of course, they dive down in the dive line.
And that's you, right?
Yeah, of course.
You're down there. How does Humphrey factor into this then?
Do you like my cold dead eyes?
And when you take off, both of you take off your glasses, it's really terrifying. Yeah, those are...
And so, and these kids see this and they shoot straight up out of the water and they're like, I found something.
Yeah. So, I've been a lifeguard. Well, this is actually the first summer I haven't been a lifeguard in 6 years. Which is new for me because I haven't, I was a teenager the last time I wasn't a lifeguard.
Yeah.
And so... being in my early 20s now, it's oh, wow, I spent a lot of my life doing that. But I developed a lot of skills doing it. Anyway, it's my second year, maybe third year of lifeguarding. And I'm on staff at that camp again, where we did the waterfront emergency procedure with the wetsuits. And the program director and the cook, of all people, decided to get Red Cross certified to certify lifeguards.
Nice.
Which is really cool to have that in-house.
Yeah.
And so you know what happened as a result of that? Lifeguard training became a part of staff training. And it made staff training a few days longer. Nice. 2 or 3 days longer. But everyone who wanted to be, which was, maybe 45% of all the people that were in staff, got to be certified lifeguards. Which is really handy when you, my campers want to use the waterfront. But I'm a certified lifeguard, or maybe I want to go take them kayaking, and I don't want to go on the other side of the lake where you can't see me.
Yeah.
But I'm a lifeguard. Okay, just make sure you let me know when you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it super handy to do anything.
Yeah.
Because the lifeguard is required to be anytime there's a motorized boat involved, a lifeguard has to be present, which is annoying. As sometimes being the only lifeguard at a camp, which I've done, or when you have 8 lifeguards at camp and they all do different things and they're all free at different times, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to deny anything to any camper. You can just be like, all right, let's do this. And it's all good. Anyway, they're doing training. I've been a lifeguard for a few years already.
Yeah.
So I'm basically assistant to these guys because I'm just getting my recertification, which is like a day of a single practical exam and then like a written exam, which is the easiest thing in the world. Like I could sleep through it. It's so easy.
Should the campers be A, breathing, or B, not breathing?
I'm gonna go C on this one.
I gotta have to go with C. Yeah.
Can I phone a friend? Anyway, they're doing shallow spinal procedure. So I'm getting backboarded in the shallow end as the dummy. All right, so it goes okay. There's 2 or 3 counselors that are going through this, and they are stinking it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Enough to the point where they get me on the backboard, head in the thing, forehead strap on, because and the 4 straps on my body. So my arms, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going somewhere a little bit somewhere because, it's their first time doing it, so I'm a little bit loose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the program director goes, all right, guys, let's break down what happened. But they do this after I am on the board, propped up against the dock with my feet, like, knee-deep in the water.
Yeah.
Like, propped up against the dock. And I'm in this board, and, like, my feet aren't touching the ground because I'm on this board.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, can you help me? And then they're talking, and they're talking for a while, and it's like, okay, well, clearly my boss thinks it's funny to just leave me here while they talk about this. And the other people, they're already being, like, not scolded, but talked through other things, so they're not paying attention to this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I can, and I, like, start manipulating my wrist to try to get that strap, and as soon as I twist my wrist, the board just slips into the water, and I'm face down, tied to this board that's floating, and I'm just drowning. And I'm there, and I'm like kicking my toe, like making as much of a splash as I can, because none of them are watching.
Yeah.
I'm making as much of a splash as I can, and bubbles, for like maybe 20 seconds. But 20 seconds is a long time when you think you're going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my boss, the program director, all I see is I'm underwater, and then I have my eyes open, because it's like, this is the last thing I'm going to see, and it's a stupid fish. And the board rolls up and out, and the wave of water, like on cinematic lenses where it just rolls away.
Yeah.
Rolls away, and I just see my boss grinning like an idiot. He's not, we probably should have untied you, shouldn't we? And he props me back up again. For a little bit, and then he pulls me up and unties me.
Okay.
But it's just like,
Dude, spinal stuff?
It's
Always
different stuff.
Always a good time.
But it was like, oh man, just to be almost drowning in a lifeguard class.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
That's pretty funny.
Another time, I was actually at our university getting recertified because they offer a class there for really cheap. If you didn't know that, Levi,
Sick.
it's like $30 to get recertified. It's stupid.
For Red Cross?
Yeah,
But like, I have a lapse training.
yeah,
And
but you can get recertified.
I never
because you've
had
already
Red
done-
Cross.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I've never.
What'd
had
you
Red
use?
Cross. BSA lifeguard,
Ah, that's a little different.
which is less swim intensive, more skills intensive.
Yeah, I mean, I learned skills through just teaching the skills.
Yeah.
So it's whatever. But yeah, it's like swim intensive is mine because I've actually had to. I've had boats where they've just like anywhere from kayaks to a speedboat where they've like broken down and there's no help coming, and I've tied it around my waist and swam it in,
Dude.
which is. I'm surprised I've done it as many times as it's actually I have some saves under my belt as a lifeguard. It's never a good thing to like brag about your saves because it means you weren't watching kids that much.
Yeah.
Because you let that happen. Because being a lifeguard is about preventing. And if you have to use your skills, then you should be able to do them. But anyway, like we can get into the politics of that later.
It's true.
Side note.
You do have a duty to save.
Side note. I remember it was actually that year that I was getting recertified at the school that we all attended. that the Red Cross put out an oops of a safety thing.
Yeah.
And they put out this cartoon poster of children at a swimming pool.
Okay.
And it's all different children. It's like all sorts of different things. And so it's like, kids splashing towards people on the cement. Not cool. Kid doing laps. Cool. Kid running. Not cool.
Yeah.
Kid diving in the shallow end. Not cool. Kid putting on sunscreen. Cool.
Yeah.
Kid waiting in line for stuff. Cool. Kid eating outside of the swimming area. Cool. But everything labeled not cool, every person labeled not cool is brown or darker.
Oh.
And everyone that's labeled cool is white.
Yikes.
And you know what?
That's a yikes.
It was a yikes, but there's no way the Red Cross did that on purpose. Because you know what probably happened?
What?
This poster isn't diverse enough. Why don't you just put a few different races in there? And so okay, so they probably just did MS Paint, paint bucket color.
Yeah.
And then it happened to all be the not cool.
That's pretty rough, though.
Yeah, just a yikes. Anyway, so that poster came out, and we had a good laugh staring at that in the hallway at school.
Oh
So-
my gosh.
I'm doing my recertification class, which for me was pretty easy because it was whatever. But the instructor found out how long I was a lifeguard and what I had done with it, and he was like, "Okay, you're just gonna help me out." So he had me, he had two people lifeguarding the pool of all these trainees. There was probably 22 people in the class, something like that.
Yeah.
And so you're patrolling, and then something's going to happen, and it's going to either be a submerged passive, deep end, or passive shallow, or passive floating in the deep end, or it's going to be something. It's going to be it's going to be either passive, or someone's going to fake drowning, or whatever.
Mm.
And so what he tells me, and he does not tell the other guy, is we're gonna pretend to hit you in the head with a football that we're throwing around in the pool, and you as the other lifeguard are going to be the person he has to jump in and save. So I'm like, I'm 100% on board with this, because who expects the lifeguard to be the person that has to get saved?
Mm.
And they do it for a little bit, and it's going on a lot longer. The guy's just like, did I miss something? And he's counting, and I'm looking because something could happen anyway.
Yeah.
But it's I know what's going to happen.
Mm.
And so then all of a sudden the football comes, and they somehow get it to just graze my head, and I fake fall in, and apparently I did it so well that the instructor jumped into the pool because he thought I nailed my head on the shallow end when I dove in. But I did that curl thing, so where you can flip really quick and then make it look like you smacked your head or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And be totally fine. But apparently it was so convincing that all of the students stopped what they were doing and the instructor jumped in. And because especially since I was I'm gonna commit and not come up.
Yeah.
And he thought I had just actually knocked myself out.
Oh my gosh.
Lifeguarding is such a fun time. I recommend it to anyone that's 16 to 22 even. If you have an opportunity. Yeah, because 16 is the minimum. If you get a chance to either work at a public pool, which is a completely different atmosphere from a camp, or at a camp, or at even a city lake or something like that, do it. It's a fun experience. It's a lot more customer service than you ever thought it would be.
Also true.
I've had a lot of angry parents talk to me about how I not rate swimmer. We have to have swim tests and stuff like that. And it's if I judge that you're not a good swimmer, you don't pass the swim test. And you get, depending on how old you are, you get one shot at the swim test. And it's if you can't swim, you can't swim.
You have to console them.
You have to console them, and it's really sad. I have, sometimes kids do what they need to do, but you can tell, after about a half of it, they were trying not to drown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really rough, because then they finish and they're so happy, and then you have to go, you know what, I think if we ever have you in the deep end, we're going to have you wear a life jacket. Mm-hmm. And then you tell them that they didn't pass, and they get real sad.
Yeah. And
then their parents, who are there checking out their cabin, while you're doing swim tests with two other people, another lifeguard and someone else on the dock,
yeah,
they come down and they're very angry with you because, well, I did everything I needed to do, but he said I didn't pass. I was like, well, if you had seen your daughter almost drown right there, you would agree with me. This is not for because I don't think your camper can swim. Clearly your camper can swim. Mm-hmm. I just want you to know that I wouldn't feel comfortable looking away from them for a second. And if I'm going to have 30 people in the waterfront at a time, I can't only be looking at your child.
Yeah.
You should feel more comfortable now that I won't let her do this because you know she will be safe no matter what. Or like he or whoever. Because even high schoolers don't pass the swim test. It's not a very difficult test. It's not...
Even adults don't pass.
Adults suck. I've had counselors that don't know how to swim. You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's rough.
Sometimes it's funny when the
there was a counselor last year when my wife was on staff and I was volunteering as a lifeguard for a week. And she couldn't swim. And I found out she couldn't swim. And I found out how old she was. And I said, you're learning how to swim. Pretty much that John Wayne picked up the kid by his suspenders and just flung him into the pond. Ooh. I can decide. She was like 5'2", maybe 5'1".
Yeah.
And I'm not a giant, but I'm not tiny either. I'm not medium sized. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And so I'm touching it like easy. Like I can touch like pretty much the whole first 2/3 of the swim area.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can jump off the dock. It's fine. You can touch there. She could not. And I felt really bad about it, but at least I got her in the water. And then from there, the swimming lessons began. And I'd never given swimming lessons, let alone adult swimming lessons.
Yeah.
But it went well. She got the confidence to know where she was going when she was swimming. But it was like,
no?
Swimming lessons is also something different. You can get certified through the Red Cross to do that. Or if whatever pool you're working at doesn't care about if you're certified to do swimming lessons, that's okay. I never gave them because I went the camp route, and no one signs up for swimming lessons at camp.
They don't.
They just sign up to go boating or whatever.
If they do, it's probably because, well, there are a lot of reasons.
Anyway, Eliot, as a non-lifeguard, what's your experience?
I can't swim.
Yeah. Well, come on, you got more than that. I've been talking a lot this episode. You guys gotta pick up the slack. I'll let it out.
Filling a lot of space, man. That Four Locos really getting to you.
Don't tell them what it is. I've only had 2/3 of one.
That Quattro Crazy is really getting to you.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
I don't know. What do you want to hear? Do you want to hear about like my water stories, or do you want to
just
hear
anything?
about, like,
go for it. You can talk about anything you want, man.
Like when I was employed at camp.
Nah, whatever. You can talk about more police calls you've gotten.
Nah, it was just the one.
Just the one about magnets.
It's a good police call.
You got me going.
Yeah.
You also.
Have you talked with unnamed, ungendered person about?
Oh gosh. About being on the podcast?
Yeah.
No,
not
yet.
Okay.
I can though.
Okay. Have you talked more about show itself?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Like his show itself?
This show itself. My brother.
Oh, okay.
My brother. I mentioned early on that my brother and I, we don't talk a lot, but it was really interesting to hear that he listened to this show. But maybe he does live a few hours away from us. If it's okay with you guys, maybe he could call in one time just to hang out for like a couple minutes.
Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, just drop his audio and or whatever. We'll have like a virtual guest since he's probably not going to make the drive, but it'd be like fun to have him on because he can tell you about all the times I've thrown bricks at him, shot him, and otherwise maimed him. But also all the times that he called me names and deserved it. Mom, if you're listening, I'm very, very sorry about everything I've done to David. I love him now. It was hard when we were kids.
Dude, being an older sibling is, well, just being a kid is very hard.
And adults forget that.
Adults do forget that.
You have more drama when you're a kid about little things that don't matter. Like now I have to deal with coworkers that I don't like and that I wish would do their job better, or sometimes things just break and I spend a while fixing them. Like last week, my boss was gone for the entire week. And during that entire week, most of the things that could go wrong went wrong, and he wasn't there to do it. So I was like, well, I guess I'm stepping up. And so people have questions for me all day because they see me stepping up and doing these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm just making executive decision after executive decision. And I'm like, I'm trying not to encroach on power that I don't have. But this week, I'm in charge.
I'm doing it.
Like, no one else is doing this. So, you, there, do this now. You, come with me. We're going up to the body shop to do this now. Like, that kind of deal. It was a interesting week. But yeah, I spent 4 hours on Tuesday last week when I uploaded the last episode.
Yeah.
Just repairing a pressure washer someone had run over and then just forgot to mention. And then I went back there and I was like, hey, why is your hose leaking? Oh, yeah, one of us ran over it last week. Oh, you didn't mention that to Steve when he was here and you just had to wait until he was gone? Now I have to deal with it?
Yep.
Cool. You're the best. People.
Yeah, people are pretty funky.
So, yeah, that's the drama you run into as an adult. Or, like, money. Money's rough.
Money's rough.
Mm-hmm. Like, doing doing finances and budgeting isn't hard. Yeah. Sticking to said budget and coming up with said finances.
Pretty hard.
Pretty hard. It's unless you've just gone through the whole Dave Ramsey thing and you just live off of cash and envelopes, which works for some people, but I also want to purchase a house at some point, so I put a lot of things on credit card, because I never put anything that I can't afford on credit card because that's dumb.
Yeah.
And I always pay off my credit cards because I have a couple lines of credit. Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry. Because my mom is very against. My mom and my dad didn't finance well when they first started out. And so they put themselves in a lot of debt. I have a really good credit score now and no debt, Mom. So be happy. Yeah, no student loans. That's nice. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being very kind and generous to me.
My parents declared bankruptcy twice.
Yikes.
No, once, and then they stopped having credit a second time, and then this is their third shot, and they're doing really well. So that's good.
Yikes! Their credit score must be just the worst.
As someone who's had credit for 4 years, 5 years, my score is better than my dad's.
And he's had his for 35 or like 40, something like that.
Yeah. So
I know your score is probably in like the
like mid 700s.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. I've had credit for 10 months.
There you go.
I've had credit. No, less than that. I've had credit for 9 months. So credit is a new thing for me. Because I didn't have student loans and I didn't take out loans for housing or anything like you did. So I had no loans to start out with a credit score. In fact, when I was trying to open lines of credit, and I have 8 inquiries which negatively affect my score because I got declined for all credit cards because I didn't have a credit score.
And they don't want to lend to you.
And then every time you apply for a credit card, you get a hard inquiry on your credit score. So now my already non-existent credit score, I looked at my credit score, I did a credit test.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why am I just not getting anything? Because I thought at least I might as well just, I hope you start with at least 500 or something. And it starts out as a nil value, a null. And apparently I had enough hard inquiries to where it looped around to a negative integer on their website.
That's pretty.
And it was like 11,000, which doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah.
It was 850 is the max, I think.
Yeah,
850 is the max, and it was just like 912, something like that. It's just a negative. It's like a reverse loop on the website. It wasn't anything to do with the credit score itself, but the website couldn't handle the negative integer.
Yep,
which was very funny for me.
There are a few numbers I don't understand. Credit, pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Trying to think of other numbers I don't understand. The price of gas right now.
That's a bit rough right now. I wish we could just, figure that out because, you know what? I lived in a weird French city. It wasn't actually in France, but it was a weird French name. And I remember paying 85 cents a gallon back in my day.
When I was a senior in high school, my economics teacher said, I bet you, this is the start of the semester, I bet you gas will be below $2 by Christmas. And it was. Those were the good days.
That was the good days. Yeah, I remember paying sub $1 for gasoline. And now it's what? Here, it's not as bad as it could be. Other places it's like $5 right now.
That's true.
For us, it's like $3.09.
Especially when people hack your pipeline, then gas prices go up.
Can you believe they only got like $5 million out of that? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Oh yeah.
Shoot for like $100 million. Don't shoot for like $1 million.
I mean, like $1 million's a good payday. You can like kind of more or less retire.
Yeah, but it was a group. It was a collective. It wasn't one guy.
That's true.
Yeah. I love the conspiracy. Conspiracy theories are always good. They're always true no matter what, too. Just so you know, they're always true.
That's right. The Earth is table shaped.
The Earth is dude. You believe in the Earth? This is a simulation on Venus.
I don't believe that.
Or dude, the government run by spider people.
I mean, birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real. Birds aren't real.
Planes
The
aren't
moon
real.
the moon is fake. Birds aren't real. And Australia doesn't exist. Those are the ones we're in on. At least I'm in on.
Planes aren't real.
I don't believe that one.
What are you talking about? They're not real.
I've been in them.
You actually have it,
Then how did I get to where I was going in the time that I did?
Levi, why don't you talk about your greatest conspiracy?
What?
About who controls the world and who is out to get you.
I don't know if they control the world, but I know who's out to get me.
Hit us with it.
So,
do you want to crack one of these green bubblies while you're at it?
I'm remiss to say, because they're definitely listening right now, but the hay bales, if you look out your car window when you're driving,
Oh my goodness.
they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. They follow you everywhere. Hundreds of miles you're driving along and you're like, oh, there's a hay bale. There's a hay bale. And they're innocent enough, right? But they're actually real beings. They're actually watching us all the time. And there's some in the house right now.
Let me spill my drink. Yikes, I just dropped my tomahawk and spilled my drink and flipped over at the same time. Woo!
Well, anyways, so we're probably going to be dead before we post this episode.
If this is the last episode, I think we said that every time that this was the last episode.
Well, we'll be dead, so this will never get posted.
Yeah. You got something? You raising your hand?
Are you looking?
Nope, I'm signing off.
Okay.
But I'm doing one of those silly English salutes.
Because
click
this
your
is a
boots.
visual media.
One day, once we get equipment, which we would like to get, I actually did enter. Patreon had a giveaway that I should have sent you guys to enter, but it was 2 microphones, a soundboard, and 2 headsets, and then we just, spend the money on a 3rd microphone and a 3rd headset
Nice.
to actually do this.
That'd be
It's a
sweet.
giveaway. They haven't announced the winner yet. I'm still waiting. I had 4 entries, so
Nice.
I should ask you guys to enter. So
That's
we could
enough
have
entries.
maybe we did, maybe we didn't. It didn't say how many people actually entered or not, but if we got it, hopefully there'll be a boost in the audio quality, that it's going to sound really nice soon. If not, we will continue to do this show with the equipment we have
That's right.
for as long as we find this financially viable.
Which currently,
Is okay, yeah.
not any real.
We've actually made enough money from this show from our wonderful sponsor, Anchor, who's still sponsoring us, by the way, somehow. They decided our ad was good enough.
It's true.
So thank you, Anchor, for sponsoring our show. That we've actually paid for all the gas used in the commuting from these 3 episodes. So way to go! We did it. It's all the gas that was used is all paid for.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yep. Good job, Anchor.
Thank you, Anchor, for just keeping us going. We got, it's $1,000 overhead per episode,
That's
and it's really
a
hard to
lie,
meet that sometime.
but also it's true.
Yeah. But if you do like what we got, even though our stories are rambly, and I had mysterious green liquid that helped me ramble, give us a follow on our Instagram, Instagram.com/Lake City Variety. I always post an add to story whenever we add a new episode. We always do a different title card for each episode. We're also on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, on like the 7 major sites that you can listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. Still don't have a YouTube URL, but we have gotten a few looks at it. But if you could, even if you like the show just on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything like that, head on over to our YouTube channel, head on over to our Instagram. If we get, and we have a Patreon as well, patreon.com/Lake City Variety. First up on there is the sandwich that we mentioned first episode. We're still hoping we can split that. We haven't eaten since before that first episode.
That's right.
We are rough starving. 3 weeks. It's been a really long time and we're dying. We could really use that sandwich. But if you like the show and you want to hear more, if we do reach our second goal of $100 a month for donations, we will record a second episode, and all money that is donated will go to better and better equipment, and to the point where we feel that we are comfortable with the show's quality.
That's right. And
not the content of it, not the quality of the content, the quality of the sound, and if we can get video would be great too. We'll put, if we get video at some point, we'll put that up on the YouTube.
Golden quality content, and it'll also go towards Eliot's rent.
It will also go towards Eliot's rent, since he did quit his job. And I think, is this your last week or next week or last week?
My last week.
Yeah, I claimed my last cheapo burrito today.
I have to do that.
Yeah.
Hopefully this week.
I didn't do that. We did not do that just because we were there. We just also wanted burritos. We went to go get a car wash. And I was like, oh yeah, Eliot's working until 9.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been Lake City Variety, episode 3, the 3rd episode.
That's right. It's the camp episode.
Camp episode.
Signing off.
Signing off.